All right. What is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome on into another live stream here. How are we all doing? Let me know in the live chat if you can see me okay and if you can hear me okay. You're in a 30x short on Bitcoin from 99.8. Well, I'm sure that is a very, very nice profit. What are you at right now? 99.8. Down to current levels. That is a 5.8% move. Let's call it 6 times 30. 180%? 150% profit? Hey, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. Good shit, dude. Good shit. Welcome, guys, into the live stream. What's up? What's going on? We have Bitcoin trading essentially at range lows here, more or less kind of getting ready to break the floor. Enigma says, yeah, around that. Thanks, man. Yeah, you're very welcome, dude. You're very welcome. Congratulations. That's amazing. What's going on, guys? Well, welcome into the live stream here. Bitcoin sitting at $94,000. Pretty much at the bottom of that previous range. So there's a lot to unpack here. As we are kicking this stream off, let's smash those likes up, get those likes above 50. Help us push this stream out just before we do get started here. Really do appreciate it. Welcome to the live stream, everyone. We got Adam, Diamanda. We got, I can't even say these names. James, what's up, James? Khatib. Bro, can you suggest about alt's direction, how much more it can bleed? So, the thing about alts, where we are right now, is Bitcoin dominance, which obviously is a bigger representation of altcoins, has been pretty healthy, you know, for alts, I think. You know, obviously there are some things that are not so great here. What's up, Alex? Welcome into the stream. Obviously there are some things that are not so great here, you know, with Bitcoin dominance. But let's get into that in a minute here. I want to let a couple people kind of trickle in. So as you are joining this live stream, ladies and gents, smash up those likes. Let's get these above 50 here. Just help the algorithm kind of push us out a little bit if you haven't already smashed them up. Thank you all very, very much. 2007 Killer Gaming says we're cooked. We might be, dude. We might be, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll cover it all in this stream here. Let me know how you guys are feeling in the live chat. Let me know where in the world you guys are watching from. You already know the deal. We're sitting at 22 likes. Thank you all very, very much. Really do appreciate it. Just want to give a couple more moments for people to roll in here to the stream. We've been live now just for a couple of minutes here. And let's just take a brief kind of stroll through the market here, shall we? While we're doing this. We've got the S&P closed. The S&P is not trading right now because it's a weekend. However, it has printed its weekly candle. And we're about to start a new candle tomorrow. So that's going to be interesting to kind of watch out for and watch how it develops. What's going on in Ohio, Leicester, from down in Oz, Australia. What's going on, Australia? What are your targets in the short term for Bitcoin? Well, you know, bearish targets, obviously, like 91, 85. You know, these kind of levels here. We've already kind of started to dip into this support range that we were outlining, but, you know, a little bit lower than that, 85 makes sense. And then as far as upside targets, because I do obviously think that we're still intact as far as this bull market, you know, obviously, I don't know, 130K, 150. I think we can go quite high. Even by the end of this year, I think we can go quite high. Yeah, not, you know, I'm not the kind of guy that gets spooked on candles like this anymore. It definitely used to happen when I was a little bit newer to the game, but there's really no room for bad decisions like that right now. Banana Republic says, boys, when you go to stores, are they empty or filled with people? There's no bear market. What do you mean, dude? What do you mean? Stores are always going to have people. What's up, guys? Welcome into the live stream. Smash up those likes. We need 20 more likes here to kick this live stream off. I won't wait for 50, but just smash them up anyway if you haven't done so already. Thank you all very, very much. Really do appreciate it all. Shout out to Abi Gandhi in the live chat. Banana Republic says everyone's just bearish because they think we're at the end of the cycle, but the liquidity cycle's still just starting. I mean, you know, there's definitely some to agree with you on there. Josh Mahoney says, I'm still bullish. Let's go. Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah, dude. We got 15 away from 50. Thank you all very, very much. I just feel like we're melting down at the moment. I mean, we kind of are, but it's not like that's unusual or even concerning. It's just neither of those things, you know. It's actually quite typical. So, you know, you can't find me getting a little bit, you know, concerned about this. It's really not going to happen. I'm personally sitting pretty happy with everything I've seen so far. I think the market still looks pretty fine. I mean, coins are holding on, you know. I mean, yeah, like everything kind of still looks the same. James says I was getting bullish yesterday when extreme panic was happening. Overreaction still. I mean, I think the market just hasn't kind of satisfied itself yet. You know what I'm saying? And if it hasn't satisfied itself yet, then that does potentially indicate more downside to come. There might be a scenic route to get there, right? We could totally do something a little bit like this, but you know, still more downside to come according to this then if we are, you know, kind of not done. You know, and it seems like the market's looking for a little bit more blood. So we'll have to kind of see how that continues to play out here in this market. But I do think that those are going to be some important kind of points for us to be paying attention to here. Cool. Well, yeah, let's properly kick the stream off. So welcome in, everyone. Thank you all for smashing in those likes. We're about 13 away from 50, so if you haven't already smashed them up, definitely do that now. But let's go ahead and go through some analysis here. I won't look at the live chat just for 1 minute while I cover this. We've seen a pretty clear rejection off this resistance level. No surprises there. We had this resistance level outlined before we even hit it, and it did turn out to be resistance. From there, we've traveled all the way down below 98, which I'm now going to remove this line because that level is now invalidated. And we've traveled all the way down to 94. And this is exactly where I was expecting to find a bounce. I was telling you guys about that quite vocally. Those of you inside of BroFi were very well aware of this level because we were talking about it non-stop inside of the BroFi group chat and on my weekly live shows. If you guys want to get yourself inside of BroFi, now's your time, now's your chance. It is right here at the top of the description. Join BroFi pre-launch right now. With that link in the description if you are interested. But more on that in a little bit. 94k did turn out to be that bounce zone, and this bounce zone stretches down to 91 as well, 92 in this case. But around there, this is going to be kind of what I'm looking at for Bitcoin to find support. We're already here, so it's not looking great. It certainly looks like we could overshoot it at this stage. But this is what I would like to see. This would be a really nice level to reset into, and it really depends on if this was enough of a pullback for traditional finance. Because traditional finance, meaning the S&P 500 and so on, they have been going through a little bit of a, how do I say, like turbulent period. And it's really not that bad at all. Actually, I take it back. I eat my words. It's not a fucking turbulent period, but that's what people will make you think. Realistically, the S&P 500 here on the weekly has been rallying up pretty aggressively, especially coming out of this little bear market that it established here, this tiny, you know, 50-day, 20% drop. You know, it was rallying pretty quickly. It's since slowed down, and it slowed down even more. But to me, this looks pretty healthy. This looks like kind of standard price action that could lead to higher moves up. It really depends on what the stock market brings for us tomorrow, and that's what we're going to be seeing. But I'm definitely very interested to see where this could end up taking the markets, because if we are looking at a kind of sideways range here of sorts where the S&P is kind of cooling off, and if that does lead to more upside, then that is probably going to help us put a lid and kind of cap the downside here for Bitcoin. You know, if the S&P 500 comes out of this consolidation range and starts kind of rocketing above 7,000, which, you know, I mean, we got, you know, within spitting distance of it earlier, right? I mean, this was, you know, the week starting Monday, 27th of October, and the S&P ended up hitting 69.20. So that's 80 points away from 7,000 flat. And I mean, that's a kind of crazy level. You know, that is a kind of crazy level. I mean, you know, Trump got elected, what was it, like November something, right? So like, let's say around here, like early November, Trump got elected when the S&P was sitting at like 5.8, and he's basically round tripped it down and back up, but now above towards 7K here. So I certainly don't want to put that on Trump. You know, like him or Biden, the stock market doesn't revolve around these men. But obviously they're having some impact, and it's worth bringing up anyway. Thank you all for tuning into this live stream, by the way. Great to see you guys here. Let me know where in the world you're watching from and how you're feeling about the market. We feeling bullish or bearish? Let me know in the live chat. I'm gonna make a poll as well. Is the market dead? I'm gonna make a poll as well. It's a yes or no poll. Go ahead and vote on there as you are coming in. Smash up those likes. Welcome into the stream, everyone. S&P sitting at 67.34. So if it does manage to kind of resolve this range and continue moving up, I definitely think that's going to allow Bitcoin to get out of this range and continue to, move toward, at least kind of 107, somewhere around there would be ideal. To kind of see Bitcoin move back up into those ranges. So that's what I'm going to be keeping an eye out for here on this market, with these developments here. If the S&P 500 has another week of trading sideways or even moving down, then that's definitely going to spell some disaster for Bitcoin, I think, from what I'm seeing. Something I do want to point out that I think is very interesting is that Bitcoin's dominance has not been moving up very much at all. It's essentially, it started rallying from, kind of mid-September, so it's about 2 months ago now. And it hit a high very quickly on 1010 at 63.4. This high was a little bit more realistic at 61.4. But it's heavy, and it's already starting to cave under that kind of heaviness, under that weight. And so if Bitcoin dominance is falling, one of the big things that is happening right now is that altcoins are not really as weak as they, should be if the market is crashing. Because if the market is crashing, if things are going really, really bad, altcoins are usually going to get hammered. They're going to get absolutely destroyed. It's going to be pretty ugly, pretty nasty to watch, right, for altcoins. However, we're not seeing that here. We're seeing, if anything, we're seeing a small level of speculation on altcoins, and that's evidenced by things like Litecoin continuing to move up. I mean, this is only early November. Since early November, Litecoin has gained 25% against Bitcoin, 37% to the high. It's only since the beginning of this month. So, some of these coins are doing really well. Like Trump coin doesn't fucking make sense. It doesn't make sense. How is Trump coin holding up at these levels? And so, we're not necessarily getting the nicest of times with Bitcoin, and we're certainly not getting the nicest of time in the altcoin market as well, but it's not like the disaster that everybody wanted it to be either. These coins are holding on, and there's still a ton of speculation going on. There's still a ton of, how is Bitcoin dominance even able to move down right now? That must mean that people were taking on investments in altcoins. And there's still evidence of this. Like Zcash is just on a train that doesn't stop. I mean, it's almost like, it's in a descending channel right here. Obviously, if it breaks, it's going to potentially be a return back down to the, high 400s potentially. But, if it pops from here, like, how do you call a top on this shit? Like, it's easily, got $1,000 on its radar, as a next potential, leg up. So, some of these coins are moving up quite well. Some of the really big coins are just holding on completely fine. I mean, this just isn't really how a market dies, It's really kind of just people's words that are quite extreme right now. I certainly wouldn't label the price action to be extreme right now. I don't think that that's where we are. But here on this super small time frame, this 1 hour time frame, we do have Bitcoin kind of sliding into this range a little bit here. And if this kind of slow slide down does continue, then that is going to be, I think, again, another chance for Bitcoin to, use this support level and turn something good out of it. Now, I want to talk to you about a couple of the kind of bearish things that are weighing on this market right now. And one of them is going to be the weekly moving averages, the death crosses, so on and so forth. And I want to go ahead and remove everything and then throw this on. And here we're on the daily. Just starting off with the daily, taking a look at some of these moving averages. We have had a death cross here on the daily. So a death cross here on the daily basically means that our 50-day moving average, which is the red line, falls below the 200-day moving average, which is the orange line. And a lot of people are correctly pointing out that this is actually usually something that shows up at bottoms. And I want to paint a couple of those examples here on this chart just so that you and I are on the same page about this. This was also a death cross. The red line comes below the orange line. This was a death cross. This was also a death cross. This was also a death cross. And this was also a death cross. So that's a lot of our recent-ish death crosses. We're now actually 4 years back. And I don't want to go much further back, but fuck it. We'll do a tiny, tiny bit again. Here was a death cross. My bad, wrong line. That was a death cross. Let's do one more. And that was a death cross. So we have a lot of lines here indicating where death crosses have happened. And if we go through these one by one, what you're going to realize is that, like with a lot of arguments that bears are putting forward right now, they are pretty baseless. If we start with the most recent death cross that Bitcoin printed, it was literally the absolute bottom, and Bitcoin managed to rally up to new all-time highs. On this occasion here, it was also nearly the bottom, and Bitcoin rallied up to new all-time highs. Over here, it was definitely the bottom, and Bitcoin rallied up. Guess what? You're not going to believe it. Bitcoin rallied up to new all-time highs. Okay, this one comes in at a price of $41,000, and the price falls all the way down to 15. This was a very good death cross, maybe a little bit late, but very good. Here, on this death cross, it signals the bottom, Bitcoin sets a new all-time high. On this death cross, it signals a temporary bottom, Bitcoin rallies up and sets new all-time highs. On this occasion here, we get a death cross, the price falls down by a little bit, recovers by a little bit, falls down by a little bit, recovers by a lot. I wouldn't count this as a W. It comes in on a weird candle, first of all. You know, it comes in on a pump. And second of all, the downside is very limited, completely erased, and then there's a lot more. It's just chop. So I kind of don't even think this one's super valid. And so looking at all of these death crosses, and we've looked at, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 death crosses, excluding this one, and 5 out of 6 of them result in huge moves upward. And I don't think this is a coincidence. These death crosses come in very late, or even prematurely, depending on how you want to view it. But they're certainly not timed well. And a lot of people run with them. Like I said, like many other bearish hypotheses that you see in this market right now, a lot of people run with them and don't really ask many questions beyond the initial, like, hey, is this an interesting idea? And after that, they're kind of married to the idea. Ladies and gents, let's get these likes above 100. We're closing in. We're 40 away. I know we can do it. We have 250 viewers. If you haven't already smashed them up, now's the time. Definitely smash them up. Thank you all very much. Really do appreciate it. But 94K right now with this death cross, considering that it usually coincides with bottoms, I do think that there's something here. Now, fear and greed index as well. Now, it feels like this is pretty much at the floor and like it's as low as it can get. It does get low like this. It's been lower than this a couple of times as well, but it usually doesn't stay this low when it gets this low. Couple that with the fact that we've gotten one of the most useless, or I could even say one of the most useful counter signals, one of the most useless signals, or one of the most useful counter signals being a death cross, considering where sentiment is at and considering that Bitcoin literally just, and I need you to pay attention to this, Bitcoin literally just fell in to this 618 retracement right here. It just fell into this golden pocket just now. Just considering all of that, adding all of that together, this to me looks like a market where, again, prices not really doing anything that crazy, right? Again, 25% from the all-time high just isn't that big of a drop. You might think it is, and that probably just means you're not very accustomed to these markets yet, and that's fine, you'll learn. But 25%, not a big deal. Falling into a fib retracement, that's historically really fucking powerful. Lining up with, 10 on the fear and greed index for 2 days in a row. There's just a lot that's stacking up in favor of a recovery at some point here, or some sort of recovery rally. And just before the live stream, we actually put out a free video inside of 4Flies Gold here. So check that out if you're not already inside. This is a free Telegram channel where I'm giving you guys more free analysis. This one was a video. I actually put out an exclusive video for you guys there. So check that out inside of 4Flies Gold after this live stream here. Really, really good stuff. You got BroFi down there as well if you want to see all the full stuff that we put out. But this is something that I think, is looking pretty sweet at this stage. A Fib retracement, extremely bearish sentiment through the floor, fear and greed sitting at 10, historically extremely inaccurate, useless indicator firing off now, making bears even more bearish. It is the recipe for a pump. It doesn't mean that a pump has to happen. There's no guarantees in this market, but we do have the recipe for a pump, and not a little pump. We have a recipe for a pump that's going to confuse people. A pump that's going to be quite violent. Shout out to Life at 200 miles per hour. He says, all confluence tells me to buy. And I completely agree with you. I don't think I've seen anything that makes me feel bearish in this market at all yet. I don't like the fact that Bitcoin is doing so badly compared to the S&P. I think that's really bad. I think there's probably like two things that genuinely align for bears right now. Everything else is fluff or overhyped or misleading. But I think the two things, one of them for sure is the fact that Bitcoin's not measuring up to the S&P, and that is not good. I actually don't even remember the second thing that's bearish about this market, but I'm sure I'll remember at some point here. 23 likes away from 100, ladies and gents. Smash them up if you haven't done so already. Thank you all very, very much, you absolute legends. James says the market's been dead over 470 times. He's loving the sentiment. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. There's just too much piled on in that direction right now. And like I said, I think if we're able to get a little bit of relief in the stock market here, I think if the stock market can pull itself higher tomorrow or across the next week, then things are going to start to kind of get a little bit more sunny for Bitcoin. And Bitcoin can definitely still produce really violent moves compared to the S&P. I know it doesn't feel like that right now, but we need to not be hormonal teenagers about this, imagining that, because it's been shit for a while, it's going to be shit forever. That's a very childish take, and that's not how markets work. Markets are still, the same, Bitcoin's still Bitcoin. Bitcoin's still going to do things that Bitcoin does. And if there's anything we've learned about Bitcoin is that it'll do those things at, sort of the most unexpected times. And it'll do it in the most frustrating ways possible. These are very, very normal characteristics for Bitcoin, and I'm not going to ignore them. A lot of people will, and that will be at their own doom, at their own peril. But I personally will not be participating in such foolish analysis and takes here. To me, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing us fall into a really nice zone of support under extreme levels of fear, while the altcoin market is holding up and there's speculation here. That's a big deal. I don't think people understand how big of a deal it is that there is speculation going on in the altcoin market. I mean, you just don't see speculation in a bearish market. It doesn't happen inside of bearish markets. In bearish markets, people don't speculate. At the end of a bull cycle, people don't speculate. And if retail was so fucking smart that they caught the top on Bitcoin before literally everybody else, then surely they'd have a good explanation for why there is, speculation in the altcoin market. And there is no explanation for it. It's genuinely fucking, anomalous. It's genuinely something that doesn't happen often. And I think that, the situation where it happens a lot more commonly, where it takes place a lot more often is inside of essentially a market that looks bearish, but is actually still quite bullish. And again, we've seen plenty of these 32% pullbacks here. There was a 32% pullback here from this high down to this low. There was a 32% here from this high down to this low. We've seen many 20% drops. That was 20, that was 20, that was 20, that was 20. So we're in a 25% drop rate. Pardon me. We're in a 25% drop right now. My bad. And this is, really, a pretty clean setup, from what I'm seeing with all of that. I mean, 25% is not that crazy. It's right between 20 and 32 that we've usually seen. Fib retracements. I mean, I'm talking myself in circles here because there's really not a whole lot else to this, in my opinion. From what I'm seeing here, this is a pretty straightforward setup overall in the market. I think a lot of people don't want to see it that way because, then it's like, well, why am I still losing money, right? It gets a little bit frustrating. But again, I think that kind of, that perspective can only really come from a place that says that the market revolves around me. And when you grow out of that attitude a little bit more and you realize that the markets don't give a shit about you, And then actually these things become a little bit easier to digest here. I just want to take a look at X and see if there's anything going on here on Twitter. Not X. I'm going to call it Twitter. But I don't want to show Twitter until I find something, because there are some weird tweets that are showing up lately, and I'm trying to keep my YouTube channel intact. So again, it looks like there's just a bunch of random stuff here on Twitter, not a whole lot going on. There's no news articles. It's just a market that's kind of ranging. Obviously, we went from our X is always lit, but not super showable on this globalist platform. But 107k, you know, as resistance, traveling down to the next range at 94. You know, all of this makes sense. 85k is going to be equivalent to a 32% drop from the high, so that's also fantastic. And then our 40% drop, which is kind of the maximum that I'm willing to tolerate, does put Bitcoin down at 75k. Are we going to see a 91k bottom? I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking at. I definitely don't want to, you know, peg myself to any, you know, potential bottom. I don't even know why it's important to call for the bottom. It's, you know, I'm not going to try and buy the bottom if that's, you know, like I'm buying little bits where I'm seeing prices being good, but frankly, prices just haven't gotten that good. Like, we haven't seen particularly big drops, so I haven't really bought much in these last days. You know, there's really not a whole lot I could have done, right? I'd be buying at nearly the same levels I've already bought at anyway. So I didn't really want to do that. You know, I kind of decided that I'm going to be buying if these coins drop by a lot more. And that's obviously going to be something that I'd be coloring in inside of BroFi. So when you guys get yourself inside with this link right here, and by the way, it is popping off. It is hot. We're getting tons of people here joining. If you want to get yourself inside while it's still in pre-launch, the big benefit right now is you're only being charged once. You're not going to be charged for a renewal until we come out of early access. So really cool stuff, and I'm continuing to update you guys on my exact positions, where I'm planning on entering and building my position sizes and so on. And then you're getting direct access to me and insiders that I trade with inside of our group chat as well. So really cool stuff, well worth it. Get yourself inside for $100. The cool thing about this is because it's so cheap to join, a little bit of easy analysis results in gains for members, and it's so easy to pay off the fee to join because it's only $100. So we've got tons of people that are already in the green on their fee as well, which is so cool to see. So get yourself inside if you are interested there. But then as far as other markets, let's take a look at the stock market. Now's when I want to take your questions, by the way. So if you do have any questions, or maybe you've dropped a comment that I haven't read, please go ahead and write your comments in now, and I'll be taking a look at them. Definitely very excited to do that. But let's take a look at Tesla stock here, sitting at 404, getting ready for this next week of trading. So we're going to see how this continues to play out for Tesla. If it's able to recover back above 420, it should be able to revisit the top of this range at about 470. You know, pretty easily. Shout out to Life at 200 saying, loving BroFi, feels like home, best $100 you can spend. You absolute legend. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of really good feedback from BroFi. I mean, those of you that have been watching me for many years, you'll remember that I used to sell offers that were a lot more expensive. They would be like $2,000 to join, like the minimum price, you know, like really expensive. This is everything I used to offer there with a lot more on top at a much lower price point. Kind of crazy, I know, but it's been something that we've been requested a lot over the years, and I'm very happy to be able to deliver on this for you guys. So yeah, really cool stuff. I went ahead and pinned that comment as well. Thank you very much, dude. But Tesla right here, I think it should be easy to revisit that high, and obviously if the stock market does stay intact, then I think breaking these highs is going to be no problem as well. Same for these other stocks like Palantir. It's at beautiful support right now. I mean, if it does lose this level, obviously it's got a pretty sizable 27-30% drop down to 125, which would be the next kind of speculative level that I see on Palantir right here. But, you know, the bottom line is just, you know, do you think the stock market's going to be continuing up? And that's going to be, you know, a little bit more of a fundamental question in terms of like fundamental analysis is, you know, where are these stocks that are performing well, and, you know, how much more runway do they have to keep performing well, and are they actually kind of reaching, you know, some sort of bottleneck now? Are things starting to slow down with essentially like AI development and things like that? And there's articles on this left, right, and center going in both directions all the time. But the bottom line is that anyone that's clued up will know very well that, you know, development in AI, innovation in the AI space is not slowing down. It's speeding up constantly. And I think that's going to result in some pretty big deployments of tech over the next couple of months. It's constantly been happening. The new tech that we've been receiving like every few months, essentially since GPT-3 came out, have been incredible. And they haven't slowed down. I think they've sped up quite a lot. You know, I do think they've sped up quite a lot. There's a lot of tweaking, a lot of optimization. When you improve something, something else regresses. So you got to go back and fix that too. So development is a journey. But talking about this stalling or, you know, these companies, you know, suddenly becoming less useful or less justified in their valuations, I don't think we're anywhere near that right now. You know, the phase that we've seen for these tech companies over the last couple of years is building tech that, sure, it has some use cases and the general public is using it, and, you know, bigger companies are using it too in some very, very significant ways. However, and this is really important, they're not, okay, I'll get to the comments here in just a second. But you've got a lot of people that are essentially making all of these really, really big claims with these tech companies. But what they're not understanding is that these tech companies have been setting up infrastructure over these years. There's been some use cases, like I said, but a lot of this is setting up infrastructure that is able to you know, just kind of serve as a foundation for deploying new tech to the masses in the future. And that's really, really important. You get two phases here when you're building out something that's completely new. The first phase is basically setting foundations, which is what we're still in right now. And the second phase is actually, you know, doing something with it and actually like benefiting people with it. And I don't think we've really seen any of this yet. You know, I think we've seen very, very, very little actual benefit from this AI like development compared to what we are going to see. I think we've seen very little of it, maybe less than 5%. I mean, really the extent of AI use cases in a normal person's life right now is, you know, well, I use ChatGPT to deal with my, you know, to fix my car, you know, like I asked ChatGPT how to fix my, you know, like it's normal people using it for really normal things like that. This is low level. Like this is like, you know, like AI can do a lot more than this, and I don't think that tech is in the hands of people yet. So when we're looking at stock market valuations and things like that, we want to see like what can we anticipate that could result in bigger valuations for these companies in the future. And, you know, looking at Nvidia, the thing we need to understand about Nvidia with its valuation right now at 4.6 trillion is that Nvidia is a company that basically makes tech for other people to produce something useful. And in that sense, Nvidia is kind of selling a shovel, whereas, you know, Apple might be selling the gold, for example. So, you know, I think this is really important because if, you know, look, the shovel seller is going to make money. We understand how economies work, right? I mean, when there was the gold rush happening in California, the people that were looking for gold, sure, they made some money, but a lot of them went home empty-handed because they were too late to the mines or they didn't have the right machinery or whatever. But the people who sold shovels, they made guaranteed money. But it was always the gold owners that had the most gains. It was just very concentrated at the top. And so with that in mind, Nvidia is the shovel. Nvidia is not like the company that's actually delivering things directly to the consumer. Nvidia is the B2B company that other companies are using. And none of these companies are worth more than Nvidia yet. So like I've been saying for a while, I think these multi-trillion-dollar valuations for companies is going to become very normal. You know, and it already has become a little bit more normalized throughout this bull market here, but I think it's going to become very normal inside of our markets. And I think that it's going to result in, you know, like easily $10 trillion valuations, $5 trillion valuations for many of these tech companies here. You know, I don't really see it going any other way. And I don't see how, you know, any kind of fear narratives that we have in the world right now are going to be able to get in the way of the stock market doing this. You know, it looks like it's kind of already a done deal from what I am seeing personally right now. And so you bring that back to the stock market, and that must mean big moves up for the stock market. And then, you know, if Bitcoin is kind of hanging out wherever it is, that's probably going to trickle down to Bitcoin in some way. I understand that it hasn't done that yet, but we've now been, you know, I mean, we've now had a year of kind of chilling, right? I mean, you know, Trump got elected like around here, let's say like November 7, it was probably like November 4, but around here. And since then, Bitcoin's not really done a whole lot. I mean, from here to our current candle, we're up by 34%. From here to the high, Bitcoin's up by 80, which is still pretty good. It's just not it's just not typical for Bitcoin. Usually you do see a little bit more. But because of that, it's been a pretty, I mean, even stretching back to here, I mean, the market really started getting quite shit from kind of March of 2024. So from March of 24 to November of 25, you are looking at over 18 months here of being in a pretty shit market. I mean, I don't think this is gonna kind of last. Right, look at this thing on the logarithmic scale, and I mean, it's been a pretty stable, market for a while now, with another pullback here as well. If there is a resolution for this pullback anywhere in sight, and if the S&P is going to continue to move up and break that 7K level, then I don't see how Bitcoin's going to get left behind. I see Bitcoin getting much higher. Like I said, I think 150, 180, 200. I don't know. I don't really care. But I think, big price levels are still on the cards, even just for the end of this year. And yeah, Sammy, tell them the truth. I'm rich as fuck, and I want to share with the community. I mean, it's true. I mean, I don't know if I'd say I'm rich as fuck, but definitely good. I'm definitely grateful to have my beautiful collection of supercars and things like that across the world, and because of that, I've kind of done what I needed to do here. I mean, look, $100 isn't a crazy fee, as you're pointing out. This is a lot more of me just being happy to kind of, I don't know, be useful to people a little bit more than just on YouTube. I think that's been one of the things I've personally enjoyed a lot more, is because the group is still, it's growing quick, but because it's still small, I have so much time to be intimate with members, speak to them in DMs, speak to them in the group chat, and it's been really enjoyable to do that. I haven't done that in years. I haven't done that in a few years. And it's been really nice to do it again now. And I don't think I want to stop this time. Last time I got a little bit burnt out. I was like, shit, there are too many people asking me too many questions. But I don't know if that's gonna happen here. I'm a little bit more grown up now. And I value being busy a little bit more than I used to. So definitely excited stuff. Get yourself inside if you are curious with this link right here at the top of the description. What indicators am I using to spot reversals in a downward trend like this? I mean, I don't think we haven't used a single indicator. We're about 40 minutes into this live, 35 minutes into this live, and I haven't thrown an indicator on the chart yet. I mean, I don't really even use them anymore. You don't really need them, do you? I mean, the chart's telling you the story pretty well. I mean, it's pulling down into a fib level. It's got a couple more support levels down below, that line up with interesting levels. I don't really need an indicator to tell me any of this, and I don't think that they're going to be super useful anyway, because we've broken so much structure. I mean, like here on the daily time frame, it's been 4 months basically trading sideways, and now we've broken structure. So there is no indicator that's going to give you a bullish take right now, other than maybe something on the weekly and probably something on the monthly. So I think that those are going to be important things to keep in mind. Look at this weekly candle though, guys. I mean, this is quite a weekly candle here. You're talking about, opening at 104 and closing at 94. That's a 10K candle here. Definitely pretty sizable, all the way from, 107.6 at the top to 93.7. So definitely a big weekly candle here. And just traveling straight through this price range here, which is, one of the things that we were expecting. I mean, there was definitely some support in this range, but it doesn't matter if there's good support a little bit lower down. The market clearly wanted to, shake some people out. But like I'm saying, man, to what extent? Because, if you got Bitcoin dominance sitting at 59.5, you're clearly not, showing a lot of strength for the bears. I mean, there's definitely strength for the bears. Like I said, they are driving the price down, which is arguably the most important side here. But, these kind of secondary, forms of analysis are really not on the side of anyone that's bearish right now. I mean, it's you could call it neutral. You could call it neutral. I would call it neutral, but, you're talking about neutrality inside of a prevailing bull market. This is still a bull market. I don't know why people are telling you it's not. Okay, we got a death cross. We fell below a 50-week moving average. This 50-week moving average narrative is a little bit silly to me because, of course we're going to drop below the 50-week moving average. First of all, it's the 50-week moving average. This market has been, we just, a few minutes ago, we just spoke about how Bitcoin has been, kind of unusually, quiet and tame during this kind of second half of the bull market so far. And, with all of the sideways price action, your moving averages are going to start to become noise. They're going to become a little bit less useful. These moving averages are useful when the market is trending, but the market hasn't been trending. Literally, the market hasn't actually really trended in any significant way since Trump got elected. So that is, over a year now, the market hasn't seen a real kind of rally. And so, yeah, you're going to see moving averages stabilize, and that's going to mean that it's a lot easier through normal variance, normal probability playing out. That's going to make it a lot more likely that you're going to end up losing these levels. But, is that a sign that, it's the end of times? No, not necessarily. It's just a moving average that leveled out because the price leveled out. You kind of have to make the argument, if you're basing your analysis off the moving average, you have to make the argument then that these moving averages are just basically ignoring any maturity with Bitcoin, and that even if Bitcoin does slow down and become a little bit more kind of tamed with its price action, even if Bitcoin does do all of that, its upside will always still be capped because it has moving averages that serve as the fucking Terminator, where out of nowhere you can have a moving average that fails, and now the market is just absolutely catastrophic. I don't think that's how it works. I think that how it works is the moving average is just one tool out of many that you can use, and like with all tools, you need to apply nuance to it. And if this is a tool that honestly is a little bit misleading because the market has leveled out, so you need to kind of stretch out your time frames a little bit more, because we understand Bitcoin's maturing. We don't want to use the same periods to analyze it. I used to analyze Bitcoin on the 30-minute time frame. I used to analyze Bitcoin on the 1-hour time frame. Now, just because I can't do that and I have to stick to the 4-hour or I have to stick to the 1 day, I don't come out and say that the market's bearish forever now for that reason. No, the market's just slowing down. And if the market's slowing down, that means you need to zoom out. You need to take a different time frame, or you need to choose a bigger period. 50, turn that into the 100, for example. And then you might get something a little bit more realistic. I'm not saying that you will. This is absolutely not how it works. But the point is, if you're sticking to a moving average that's been useful from, 2016, 2017, up until now, 2025, and you think that the exact same tool is going to work in the exact same way while this market has changed so much and matured so much and slowed down so much, then I don't know what to say to you, dude. You're kind of just like a simpleton, you want to keep things very, very simple, too simple, to the point where there's no nuance, there's no room for nuance in this discussion with your take. You know what I'm saying? You add a little bit of nuance, speak a little bit of nuance on this discussion. Actually, you're looking at a moving average that's effectively out of date and significantly less useful for Bitcoin in this kind of phase of the market. It has, in fairness, given support to Bitcoin multiple times throughout this market cycle here. However, these are points where the market was trending a lot more. That's the point. The market was trending a lot more during these periods here, but lately the market hasn't been trending. That's why we've been able to see this drop here. So it is still bearish. It is still, not ideal. It's just that I don't think that it's anywhere near as valid of a tool, because it's heavily reliant on, recent aggression. And if there's no recent aggression, then it kind of starts showing you a different picture. Now, the reason I'm saying this at length and the reason I'm talking about this so much is because I've personally developed trading bots. And when I developed trading bots, I didn't develop them by, fucking throwing a prompt into ChatGPT or Grok and then getting some code spat back out to me. I literally hired devs and learned coding myself, which is one of the worst things I've ever done in my life, by the way. I think coding is so important, but it's one of the worst things I've ever tried to do in my life. But I had to learn programming languages myself and understand how that world works myself in order to make these trading bots so that I know what the fuck I'm putting my money into. And one of the things that you do when you make a trading bot, and that's whether you're doing it from the perspective of coding or whether you're doing it from the perspective of deliberating the actual theory that the bot is going to be using, one of the things you're going to do is you're going to get a very intimate, ground-up view of how these markets work and how these indicators work. And I've personally used moving averages in my bots as well. In fact, one of my main bots uses moving averages a lot. And so I know how moving averages work very well. I knew this before I made the bot, but after I made the bot, I learned it a lot better, to a much deeper level. And one of the specific things that I do with my bot is I'm specifically looking for, if the market stops trending, which is what it did since Trump got elected, I'm going to stop using moving averages. This is pretty straightforward. If the moving averages, I know the moving averages are going to be less useful if the market stops trending. So as a result, I don't want to use them if the market stops trending. It's really just operating from first principles. I understand when certain indicators are more useful, and I understand when certain indicators are less useful. And this is one of the periods where moving averages are less useful. That's why I'm saying everything here that I'm saying. Very long-winded, but I think very, very important. Smash up the likes, ladies and gents, if you are finding this stream useful so far. We are going to start wrapping this stream up soon. We're coming up to the hour mark here, but if you do have any questions, any other things you want me to cover here, then let me know now. Reform Goldbug says, how long will that $100 price tag last? So when you get in right now for $100, your subscription rate is locked in for 1 full year. And that year starts when we start charging you. So you're in for $100 now, but you're not going to be charged a renewal until we're out of early access. By the way, I think we're going to be coming out of early access. It could happen this month, probably next month, realistically. So, the first renewals could be charged basically December or January. So, you've got like a free couple of months if you join now, potentially, depending on this time frame here. So you are getting that price lock in, and we're going to raise prices before we're out of early access. We're raising prices as the course develops, and we've already started dropping TA. By the way, the TA videos that we've put inside of the BroFi certified course are amazing. I've recorded the 𝗙𝗢𝗨𝐻𝐼 Academy course years ago. Some of you guys might remember that. That was a good course, but I was 19 years old. I'm 24 now. And I'm really happy with the difference in the quality of the two courses. And just the content is so much better as well. We've covered pretty basic things in these first couple of videos, but we've done them to such an advanced level. The videos are really long. And I've given some really, really powerful strategies inside of those videos there. And the whole point of those videos is to deconstruct and reconstruct how you view the market. This is really, really important. You're going to view the market ground up from a different perspective after you join BroFi. And it's going to be a perspective that's going to last you a lot longer than what you have right now. I'm pretty sure of it. There are exceptions. Some of you probably already get pretty good, but most people are pretty shit at what they do. They're pretty shit at everything. And we're gonna be able to fix that pretty quickly. So there's already a couple of modules fully uploaded inside of the BroFi certified course, and there's lots more coming. So as that continues to build out, that's when we increase those prices. So that's going to be viewable by that link at the top of the description here. Reform Goldbug says, Christ, I'm 80, contemplated buying this from a kid. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Well, I'll tell you what, man. I mean, young people have a better pulse on how money works these days than older people. I think that's something I've noticed pretty clearly at this stage. I mean, it depends. There is a cutoff somewhere, but that cutoff is like somewhere in your 30s now. It's crazy. Like people above 30, above 40, I've noticed like really start struggling with markets again. Because these markets are so autistic and stupid. You almost need like, someone in their early 20s to navigate this. And it's natural for us, So that's kind of where I know it's like the craziest thing ever, but that's where we are. This is the world we're in right now. I mean, the fucking White House Twitter pages are literally clearly run by a 19-year-old with a 19-year-old sense of humor. And it's just the way the world is right now. You look at some of the biggest companies that are performing the best that have been launched recently, and it's just a bunch of fucking autistic 22-year-old kids that didn't even go to university, printing cash. I pay attention now. I pay attention now. I used to be one of the people, even though I was young, I used to be one of the people that was like, fuck looking at a younger person and what they have to say. But at this point, it's like, shit, like, you guys are the only ones that figured it out. I really worry for people in like legacy industries, you know, legacy like corporate companies and things like that. People that have had a nice, you know, padded career, 10, 15 years in the same company, stuff like that. I don't know what those people are going to do when those companies let go of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's going to be pretty rough. Enigma 1985 says, I just joined BroFi. Really excited. Hell yeah, dude. Welcome on in. I don't know if I've seen Enigma join the chat today. Maybe you're under a different name, but welcome on in, everyone. Really, really cool. So definitely check it out. Get yourself inside with this link here. You're gonna like it. You definitely, it's gonna be good. And since you are a gold bug, let's take a look at gold as well. Because I'm personally very interested in gold. I actually thought that gold was gonna break down, but it ended up breaking up, which is of course even better. What's even better than that is the fact that gold basically backtested this old level of resistance and found support here, which is really, really good. Now, it's not doing much with the support. It's been a couple of 4-hour candles here since we found the support bounce, but if this does turn into something, that's going to be gold rallying toward all-time highs again. And gold here opens in 3 hours, so we'll see how gold moves. But you know, this is a really strong bounce, and if gold is able to keep this bounce at this stage, then I think gold is going to rally to all-time highs. I don't see any more resistance up ahead for gold. I think it's already cleared a lot of it. So all-time high resistance at 4,400 is next for gold. If we're not able to use this level, we might have support again at 4,000, and then if not, and we're not able to do anything with it, then we are probably going to continue rallying down to my target, which was 3,300, you know, somewhere around there. That's kind of where I said I want to see gold dropping down to. Obviously, this is a big, you know, big sign of strength here. The fact that it's getting this breakout, it's a 5% breakout across 3 days, back testing, you know, really, really, really good signs. Very, very, very healthy market. So, you know, this is something I want to kind of keep watching to see how it continues to evolve and play out here in this market. So that's gold. That's what I'm seeing on gold. We've covered the S&P. We've covered some stocks. We've covered crypto. I think I'm pretty much done here. So let me just make sure I haven't missed any questions, and otherwise I will be heading off for this stream here. Fabio says, this looks bearish if the money flow don't come up on the big time frame. Daniel says, hi, what's going on, Daniel? Welcome in. Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't really know what you mean, Fabio, by money flow. Maybe you mean like the M2 chart or something, but I don't know. I haven't really looked at stuff like that in a while. Not personally like super concerned about stuff like that. I still think the market looks pretty good. I do. I mean, this is what I'm saying every day. You know, market doesn't look too crazy to me. I think like people are losing their minds, but again, like that's not unusual. That's not new. So is 94K really that big of a support? Yeah, it's actually a pretty good level of support, bro. You know, I mean, it's been, well, first of all, it was an all-time high for Bitcoin. You know, Bitcoin set an all-time high right here, and then it pulled back, and it was a pretty decent, you know, pullback. It was 7%. You know, it wasn't nothing. And then from there, we're back testing it. We're finding support continuously. I mean, a lot of support. Look at this. There's a lot of support coming in at this level. So, yeah, I think this is a pretty important level. 94K specifically, this top yellow line, there's a lot happening at this level. A lot. You know, we're using it as resistance. We're using it as support. Then we're using it as support again. You know, we're down here as support now. I think it's a pretty good level. You know, it doesn't have to be the bottom. You know, we're not going to know what the bottom is. The bottom depends on stocks. This is what I've been saying continuously for months. You know, that the bottom, you know, any real kind of like reversal or anything like that you're looking for is going to come from the stock market, not from Bitcoin. And so, you know, it really depends on your kind of macroeconomic analysis and, you know, your you know, almost like U.S. political analysis as well to an extent of where you think the stock market can go. Because if the stock market is going to start waking up, then it's going to look like Bitcoin had an authentic bounce off 94. But that's not the case. Bitcoin just kind of uses the stock market, you know, sometimes, not all the time anymore, unfortunately, but sometimes Bitcoin uses the stock market to move up. And that's what I think we'll end up seeing here as well. So, yeah, I think it's a pretty good level. You know, I'm not worried about this level. Let's put it that way. I mean, you know, if we do lose it, then obviously 85 is next. And I don't see us getting below 85. I don't think we're going to get below 85. I don't even I think it's going to take a lot to send Bitcoin below 91. It looks like Bitcoin wants to go below 91, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Because if things start getting really bad on traditional finance, and you know, like this little pullback that the S&P is in right now turns into, you know, something that does something a little bit more like this alone would be like a 91k Bitcoin, like minimum. Like it would, I mean, maximum, it would probably be a little bit lower than 91k if the S&P did this. You know what I mean? So we really want to see the S&P kind of hold onto this floor and, you know, continue sideways or move up a little bit, you know, to kind of get out of this range. But until and unless that happens, you know, our fate isn't particularly clear. I certainly don't think that Bitcoin itself knows where Bitcoin's fate is. I think, again, that's not gonna, you know, that's not gonna be an answer that we get by looking at these charts. I think that's gonna be an answer that we get by, honestly, like, as much as it sucks, like studying, like I said, U.S. politics, Trump, you know, where the economy is, any, you know, tariffs, trade deals, stuff like that, and also just looking at tech companies themselves and, you know, where they're at in terms of their product development and releases and so on. You know, I think those are going to be the things that really shine some light on where these markets could end up going here. But $93,930, that's where Bitcoin is sitting at right now, just on the edge of another drop here. It's looking like it wants to hit the bottom of this range at 91. I really think it wants to get to 91 from what I'm seeing here. So we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll see how that continues to play out. But ladies and gents, it's been a brilliant stream. Thank you all very much for tuning in. You know what to do if you have enjoyed this one. Smash up those likes, subscribe, tick the bell, do all that beautiful, beautiful stuff. Get yourself inside a BroFi VIP right now if you are interested. That's going to be the top link in the description down below, getting direct access to me and a very, very powerful transformation system. This is a transformation system. This is something that you join, and you should, if you're working on it, you should be able to become a totally different trader at the end, which is really, really exciting. Jay says, is there any chance of a parabolic run or a slow grind up? I hear both narratives all the time. I think we're looking at more of a parabolic run, 100%. I think, you know, I think we're going to see a parabolic run at some point. And obviously we haven't gone parabolic yet, so I think that's still yet to come. But that's what I think is on the way. All right, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this one. You know what to do. Smash up those likes, subscribe, tick the bell, and I'll see you all in the next one.